Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. Another record-setting day on Wall Street. The Dow added 69 points on the bell. That was a pop from where we were in the final hour of trade. About a third of 1% gain, with Walmart and Boeing contributing the most. Dow closing at 22,830. That puts it within touching distance nearly of 23,000. The S&P 500 up 0.25%, 2550 the level there. The Nasdaq up 0.1% to 6587, and the small cap Russell's up 1/3 of 1% today to 1508. Now, at least 15 people have died and more than 1,500 businesses and homes have been destroyed from wildfires in California wine country. Aditi Roy is in Santa Rosa with the very latest. Aditi?
Hi, Kelly. We have spent the whole day in this Santa Rosa neighborhood. This is typically a gorgeous neighborhood overlooking the Sonoma Valley. Right now, though, smoke is covering it, and you can see what's happened to the homes that are once worth up to $1 million. They have been razed, and to see the full extent of the damage, just walk over this way. It's hard to really tell what's within the rubble because everything has just been destroyed to such an extent. But those two things, those are cars. There's empty shells of cars back there. It's not just neighborhoods, also businesses have been affected. We took a drive throughout Santa Rosa. We found a Hilton hotel that was completely destroyed, as well as a Fountain Grove hotel that's a local landmark in town, also a Kmart store, a McDonald's. A lot of businesses, stores, even schools we're hearing were completely burned to the ground. That's not all, of course, and that brings us to the wineries, which play such a critical role in this area. The names are still coming in, but here are some of the big names that we do know of as far as who's been affected by the wildfires. Let's take a look at this. In Sonoma County, we know that Paradise Ridge was affected, that it has burned to the ground. In Napa, Signorello Estate and White Rock Vineyards were also destroyed by the fires. Some vineyards just had some damage. Those include Stag's Leap, William Hill, Chimney Rock, and Dariouche. By the way, Tim Cook actually tweeted out having some solidarity with the people who have been affected by this wildfire. Let's take a look at those tweets. He writes, "Our thoughts are with our Bay Area friends and neighbors affected by the wildfires. Please stay safe." By the way, the Napa County Vintners Association says that 90% of the harvest has already been completed. They say, though, that what has left is the Cabernet Sauvignon grapes, that those have thicker skins, and winemakers don't expect that those grapes will be affected by these fires. Kelly and Bill, back to you.
Aditi, do we know anything about the cause of the fire or how it moved so quickly and suddenly through this region?
Yeah, the cause is still under investigation. It's always so hard to tell in these wildfires. As far as why it moved so quickly, these high winds, especially from Sunday going into Monday, Kelly, those winds were really, really high. You know, just a case in point, we're working in San Francisco, and that's 60 miles south of the area, and we went outside on early Monday morning, and we could see thick smoke and can smell it in the sky, so it traveled fast.
And there's the fires in Anaheim. It's terrible. Aditi, thank you very much for being on. New allegations have surfaced today in the Harvey Weinstein scandal. The New York Times is reporting actresses Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie have accused Weinstein of sexual harassment, and other actresses accusing the former mogul of sexual assault. A spokeswoman denied the allegations, and former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton, whom Weinstein helped raise millions for during last year's campaign, has now issued a statement on the allegations as well. She said, quote, "I was shocked and appalled by the revelations about Harvey Weinstein. The behavior described by women coming forward cannot be tolerated. Their courage and the support of others is critical in helping to stop this kind of behavior," end quote. But even with Weinstein's firing from his studio now, the fate of the Weinstein Company remains in question. So we bring in Jeffrey Sonnenfeld from the Yale School of Management. We thank you for joining us. Tell us where you think you see this going.
Thanks, Kelly. I can't see that this business is recoverable. There are plenty of executives have missteps. There are plenty of companies that hit a pothole, and there's no reason to give up for most of them. In this case, this is irretrievable. This is a devastating destruction of reputations, of abuse and exploitation of power, of taking advantage of innocent people. The charges were already bad last Friday. What's come out today is just, to say it's unbelievable, sadly, it's very believable. And certain industries are highly subject to this, and fashion and media and some other industries where you have personality-driven businesses and charismatic leaders that seem to not play by any of the rules of normal adult conduct or professional business behavior.
We've learned that they're already considering a name change for the company. Can that keep it going at this point?
You know, I don't think so. If you take a look at designer Steve Madden, who had a securities issue in the early 2002 or so, and went to prison. And Martha Stewart, who, of course, I think was frankly innocent, but was an easy target. She went to prison for some charges of obstruction of justice. They came out, they did their time, there was contrition. In other cases, people have had setbacks, they were exonerating. They didn't have the abuses of innocent people to have this kind of victims out there. And this wasn't even a singular horrific transgression. This was a pattern of behavior that destroys the moral character of the individual. And if he owns 42% of the place, no matter what you call it, you know, Mother Teresa's library, people are still going to know the reality here. And as it is, these charismatic businesses rarely survive the founder anyway in this kind of world. These boutiques, these production shops.
I mean, look, the company was tremendously successful. Just today, Apple said it's actually pulling an Elvis biopic series after the controversy that company was producing. But his brother is still there. They've produced tons of films that have been incredibly successful. So, Jeff, in a way, I almost don't understand how it ends if you're saying this company has no future. What happens to the intellectual property? What happens to all the existing movies that have been made? What happens to other works that are in production and contracts that, you know, there's a lot of people who still have a lot at stake here.
There are legacy films, absolutely, that somebody will be able to sell off the library and monetize that, and those things will still be of value. You can find, though, that many of these studios start to have basically a peak, and the half-life of these studios is not that long. They start to trail off. The Miramax, the predecessor studio, of course, was sold to Disney and became somewhat moribund after these guys left. It was very much driven by their personalities. And they themselves had a model that very few viewers will remember, but the Merchant Ivory team had a tremendous taste for great art films that became commercial. Some 44 films like Room with a View or The Bostonians or others. But those guys, they went past a peak, and one of them has passed away since. The other one's 90. You don't see Merchant Ivory films anymore, or that catalog still actively selling. Right. If there are 50 great films, that was in their past, and the reputation stains them going forward.
Right, and if it was a slow demise, it's now become a lot more swift. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
It's kind of like Dov Charney at American Apparel. That guy is irretrievable because of his misconduct in the apparel world, and we have seen patterns like that where you have forever gotten something on your shoe. You're not going to get it off just by trying to change its color.
All right, Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, appreciate it again.
Thanks.
On NAFTA this hour, Kayla Tausche has those details. Kayla?
Kelly, we've learned the U.S. plans to propose some strict rules during NAFTA negotiations this week regarding the percentage of parts from the U.S. and NAFTA countries required in order for a manufactured good to be treated as duty-free. The proposal, according to two sources who have been briefed on the plan, would require 85% of content to come from the three NAFTA countries, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., and at least 50% to come from the United States in order to be exempt from tariffs. That compares to the current requirement of 62.5% for all three countries. It's unclear how broad the proposal would be. The largest sector affected by these so-called rules of origin is automobiles, with some reports, one from Inside Trade, suggesting it could target autos specifically. The stricter content requirements are just one controversial proposal the U.S. Trade Representative is expected to table when that fourth round of talks kicks off tomorrow, and Kelly will be reporting throughout the day, but this is certainly one that many manufacturers are going to be paying very close attention to.
Not to mention, Kayla, because it's gotten more attention of late, whether you can rely on the percentage numbers that are out there or whether that needs to be under a lot more scrutiny to see if they actually are American sourced.
And these have been statistics that the Department of Commerce has been homing in on for the last few weeks. They say that the U.S. share of that content has been eroding over the last several decades. They put out a study with their own data suggesting that. So we'll see whether Canada and Mexico are receptive to this proposal, which if any previous rounds are an indication, they will most likely not be.
All right, Kayla, thank you very much. Kayla Tausche in Washington. Meantime, Samsung currently holds the top spot in the U.S. smartphone market, but Apple products are still ubiquitous in U.S. households. Steve Leisman has a look at the numbers from his latest All-American Economic Survey. Well, how did you end up asking about iPhones,
Well,
Steve?
you know, we get to ask all these sort of big economic questions, and then we kind of drill down every now and then on people's sort of personal, economic, or technological lives. So we ask folks, do you or do you not have an Apple product in your house? And check it out. We asked the same question 5 years ago. About half of the public told us they did. That number now, nearly 2/3, 64%. Going on to the next screen here. I'm going to hit the button. There it is. Nicely done. Okay, how many Apple products do you have? 5 years ago, it was 1.6 on average. Now it's up by a full